Beneath the surface, the diving death of Richard Patton at Jacob's Well. In the heart of Texas hill country, nestled within the limestone formations of Wimberley, lies a natural phenomenon that has captivated geologists, hydrologists, and thrill-seekers alike: Jacob's Well. At first glance, this artesian spring appears serene. Its crystal-clear waters shimmer under the Texas sun, emerging from an opening in the bedrock that forms the mouth of one of the deepest underwater cave systems in the United States. It is a place of beauty, reflection, and for many, a site of recreation. Yet beneath the surface lies a vastly different realm, one of complete darkness, narrow subterranean passageways, disorienting chambers, and shifting currents. Over the decades, Jacob's Well has claimed the lives of numerous divers. Among them was a young man named Richard Patton, whose tragic descent into its depths in 1983 left a permanent mark on the diving community. Jacob's Well is the primary outflow of the Trinity Aquifer system, specifically the Cypress Creek watershed. It originates from a karst limestone aquifer formed over millions of years through the slow dissolution of soluble rock. This natural spring extends vertically for approximately 30 feet before opening into a series of horizontal passageways that stretch for several thousand feet. These submerged chambers are navigable only by trained cave divers and are notoriously difficult to map in their entirety. From an ecological perspective, Jacob's Well is a vital source of water for the region's flora and fauna. It serves as a habitat for several rare species, including the Texas blind salamander. Furthermore, it plays a critical role in groundwater recharge and surface flow to the Blanco River. Its pristine appearance belies the treacherous complexity of its internal architecture. The first known underwater exploration of Jacob's Well began in the 1950s, coinciding with the advancement of recreational and technical scuba diving. Early divers encountered tight passageways, low visibility, and unpredictable depths. While many were motivated by scientific curiosity, others sought the thrill of exploring a site few had dared to enter. Over time, reports of near-fatal encounters and the eventual deaths of multiple divers began to accumulate. By the 1970s, Jacob's Well had developed a dual reputation, one as a natural treasure and the other as a site of high risk, especially for those who underestimated the precision and expertise required for safe navigation. Despite several restrictions and temporary closures, the well continued to draw divers from around the country, each one attempting to unlock its subterranean secrets. Richard Patton was a 20-year-old diver with a promising future. At the time of his death, he was described by peers as calm, cautious, and technically skilled, possessing both the physical conditioning and academic interest necessary for cave diving. Unlike some who ventured into Jacob's Well on impulse or for social notoriety, Patton approached the endeavor with respect for its known dangers. He had logged numerous dives and possessed experience in confined aquatic environments. On a summer day in 1983, Patton entered Jacob's Well with the intent of conducting a controlled and well-documented exploration. It would ultimately become his final dive. The initial descent into Jacob's Well can be deceptively tranquil. Sunlight penetrates the upper chamber, illuminating the water column and creating an illusion of safety. Patton entered the spring with standard scuba equipment: a primary air tank, a backup regulator, a high-powered dive light, and a depth gauge. His dive was planned to follow the mapped chambers, Chamber 1, followed by the narrower Chamber 2, and finally into the complex structure of Chamber 3. The first two chambers were navigated without incident. Chamber 1 is large and well lit. Chamber 2 presents increased difficulty due to narrowing corridors and low ceilings. As he passed into Chamber 3, visibility diminished rapidly. The walls closed in. The margin for error narrowed. It is within this perilous chamber that something went catastrophically wrong. Chamber 3 is infamous for its narrow crawl spaces, sharp turns, and loose silt. The slightest disruption can create a total loss of visibility within seconds. It is believed that Patton inadvertently kicked up sediment from the cave floor, creating a blinding silt-out. In the absence of a guideline, a critical tool for navigating out of such conditions, He may have lost his sense of direction. At that depth, under intense psychological stress and with limited air supply, every second becomes critical. Patton's dive light would have struggled to penetrate the cloudy water, and any attempt to backtrack could easily lead into a side passage or dead end. Ultimately, Patton became lodged in a narrow fissure within the chamber. Despite carrying a redundant air source, he ran out of breathable gas before finding his way out. When Patton failed to surface within the expected time, concern quickly escalated among those waiting above. Initial hopes that he had chosen to extend his dive gave way to fear as the minutes turned to hours. Emergency services were contacted, and within days, highly experienced cave divers were mobilized to initiate a search and recovery effort. Yet even for experts, navigating Chamber 3 was a formidable task. Visibility was limited. The terrain was unpredictable. Despite repeated attempts, they could not locate Patton's body. It would take nearly 2 years before Patton's remains were discovered, accidentally, by another diver. His body was wedged in a side passage of Chamber 3, intact but immobile, with gear still strapped to his frame. Recovery efforts were delayed until conditions were deemed stable. When the operation was finally conducted, it was executed with extreme caution. His remains were returned to his family, who held a private memorial service. The diving community mourned not only the loss of a promising individual, but the reaffirmation of how unforgiving Jacob's Well can be, even to the prepared. Cave diving presents a unique confluence of physiological and psychological stressors. The absence of natural light, the constraints of movement, and the inability to surface vertically all contribute to elevated levels of cognitive load. At depth, nitrogen narcosis can impair judgment, while stress-induced panic may exacerbate spatial disorientation. The presence of particulate matter, such as the limestone silt in Jacob's Well, can swiftly reduce visibility to near zero. Divers without a continuous guideline, redundant lighting, and extensive training in zero-visibility navigation are particularly susceptible to becoming lost. Richard Patton's death exemplifies the thin margin between a successful exploration and a fatal outcome. Patton was not the first, nor the last, to perish in Jacob's Well. At least a dozen divers are known to have died in its chambers since formal records began. Some were recovered quickly. Others were never found. Each incident has contributed to a growing body of safety protocols and hard-won knowledge within the cave diving community. In the years following these tragedies, access to Jacob's Well has become increasingly regulated. The Hays County Parks Department enforces strict rules, including permit requirements, certification checks, and a moratorium on non-scientific cave diving. Conservation groups have also taken action to preserve the well's fragile environment. Pollution, drought, and overuse threaten the aquifer, compounding the risks to both divers and the ecosystem. The story of Richard Patton serves as a solemn reminder of nature's duality, beauty intertwined with danger. His life was not defined by recklessness, but by curiosity and commitment. He is remembered by family, friends, and fellow divers not as a victim, but as an explorer whose passion carried him into the unknown. His legacy has helped shape modern diving education and continues to influence safety standards today. Despite its risks, Jacob's Well remains an object of fascination. For scientists, it is a living laboratory. For conservationists, a critical water source. And for divers, it represents the threshold between what is known and what still lies undiscovered. The allure of the unknown is powerful, but so too must be our respect for its perils. Beneath the tranquil waters of Jacob's Well lies a silent archive of lives lost and lessons learned. It is a place that rewards caution, punishes arrogance, and humbles even the most experienced. As long as people are drawn to its depths, Richard Patton's story will remain relevant, etched into the very rock and water where his journey ended.